So, welcome to this live broadcast from Copenhagen on I would say, very exciting day for a Microsoft partner. We built a lot of excitement early this year when Microsoft announced everything about the new Microsoft Copilots coming out later this year. And I'm happy to say that we, as a partner in Fellowmind, have been working with the Copilots these recent weeks, and it certainly is very exciting. So let's have a conversation about that and AI and in general. And I'm happy to invite my colleague flying in from Finland on today's talk.
Miika. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I am Miika Tekoniemi. I'm from Finland. I am our Fellowmind Finland's competence lead for our Apps and Innovation business unit. And I'm super excited to be here as well. Yeah. So glad to finally get this thing out that has been talked about a bunch over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And I'm Henrik Christensen, CTO here in Fellowmind Denmark. Also very much working on new technologies from Microsoft. I've been doing that for many years. And of course, the hot topic of this year is the whole AI story from Microsoft and specifically these copilots. And the idea about today's session is basically to kick off a whole range of broadcasts in these coming weeks. We thought it would make sense to do the basics today, and then you will see next week that we'll have a session deep diving more on the Microsoft 365 Copilot now that it is there. Then the following week, we go maybe a bit more technical, doing some open AI use cases, and we'll maybe also talk a bit more about that today, what that is. Then come the week of the Microsoft Ignite. Of course, I guess we're all excited to go there, either in person or digital. We have this, I'm one of the people that are fortunate enough to go there in person, and we are planning for how should we say, live from Ignite, a session where we will try to highlight what we learned from day one, so to speak.
There's going to be so much information, and it's basically our job to pack it down and provide the most valuable information out there.
Yeah. I think most people that have gone to these conferences in the past know the almost frustration of being there and just knowing all the things you're not hearing. But a good thing is that it is today with how Microsoft sets up these conferences very much digital. So much content is recorded and shared actually almost as it happens. So it makes so much more sense to then also have a conversation about it while it's happening and maybe direct people in a certain direction. And then to be announced, we'll have what we call the episode 5, the aftermath of Microsoft Ignite. I guess, and our current planning shows that it will probably be the week after Ignite ended. But today's session, sometimes, and even for us, I guess it makes sense to maybe step back a bit and just think about what is the context of this, what is the foundation, what is the platform we're building on. It's also a time for us to maybe say, okay, we've been working actually with quite some customers while we were waiting for the copilots, working with some of the tools and features that are at hand. And that is, in summary, what this session is about. We would like to ensure that we are on a common ground, so to speak, have a common understanding about what is AI, and especially the AI in the Microsoft space. Then we'll also have some open questions, maybe. We'll have our take on it. Will AI take my job, and so on. But hopefully also really talk to what is the business value, what are the opportunities out there, and I guess, in the end, our key message here is get started.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now is actually the perfect time to do that. And we'll, I guess, later on also give a message in how simple it is to move in this landscape right now. But I guess let's get started and dive into the first topics and what we are talking about today.
Exactly. Yeah. So, talking about AI, Microsoft uses this slide, and we basically just copy-pasted it because we actually think it talks to a very, very important message. First of all, being that AI, that's that's not anything new in the terms of artificial intelligence. I think you could say that the ideas about it was formulated back in the former century in the 1950s, where they saw the potential of computers at that time. They also then formulated what we could do with computers. I guess a lot of the sci-fi actually derives also from that period in terms of also where could it go. Then we saw the maturing of machine learning, and I think the limiting factor here for many years has actually been the compute power available. And that's what this slide maybe also talks to, that you can see stepwise from artificial intelligence over machine learning to deep learning and now generative AI. It has accelerated, right? Yeah. It has really kicked off in these very recent years. And you can say working in any productivity tool within the last 10 years, even your mobile phones and so on, you've seen glimpses of this actually working in some areas. But I guess it's also fair to say that we were all maybe taken by storm and surprise almost when we saw this very first publicly available and working generative AI in the form of the ChatGPT.
Yeah, and I guess really to summarize the slide, I'd say that if you've had like previous experiences with AI, you've maybe had a bad stigma or maybe some bad interactions with AI where you've had to spend a bunch of time gathering data and then mushing it up together and learning based on that and getting some analysis on your data. Yeah. Those have been big projects and they have been quite, unstable whether they will provide any benefits or not. Now we are not there anymore. We have jumped into a new scenario where the machines understand our natural language, and that's, I guess, the biggest thing, that they can now understand us and generate new things for us. Yes. Quite simply.
Yes, yeah. So you could maybe very simply say it's not such a geeky project, sure. A big project to get productive with the AI anymore. Exactly. In recent weeks, I've actually had a conversation with a person that is now retired, but working in one of the major companies here in Denmark. And I talked with excitement about the AI now, and he was like, yeah, I think we've been there before, haven't we? And he mentioned a competing product to Microsoft, Watson, and how they've spent way too much money on that project and never really saw how they could harvest the benefit of that, really yielding the results or delivering on the promises. So I guess we're here to say that we strongly believe that investments in this area, use of this now is something that will yield results. But again, we will get back to also some examples on that. But looking at it in this way, then we basically went to a whiteboard a couple of weeks ago here in Fellowmind and brainstormed a bit about, okay, is there a way to maybe visualize this development and also in that way try to relay how things are building on top of each other? Also because there are a lot of confusion here. We even confuse ourselves for things sometimes internally in all these classic abbreviations and things that, even from a Microsoft perspective, is almost branded the same, named the same thing, but it's very different things, and at least in terms of what the user experiences. But reading it from left to right on this slide, you could say, okay, so we had the notion of the AI. We have the notion of machine learning. A very important point is here, when we're not going into that discussion today, that this is not the artificial general intelligence we're talking about here, because I guess more smart people can talk more to that than I can. But basically, that's not what we add here. That's why the AGI is at the bottom there. But then you could say AI came the large language models, the LLMs, that kind of is in the shadows. It's in behind everything we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's sort of a top-level term for these models that we are using There could be models from OpenAI, such as the GPT model. There could be Llama from Meta and all of these. It's sort of a top-level term for most of these generative AI tools.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that there's not a single tool out there. It's actually a huge...
exactly. And that's probably something that you've heard before. You've heard people talk about these GPT 3.0, GPT 3.5, GPT 4.0, and you've heard about Llama and all of these different terms. So these are basically the model behind the chat interfaces that we use to type our questions to. That's the model.
To do the generative AI.
Yes, exactly.
So ability to...
And then we have the tools like ChatGPT, which is the actual interface, the where you type your questions to. So that's typically where people, you've heard these terms, so how do they differentiate between themselves? Typically people use the term OpenAI right now, which is obviously a company, and a company that has built the GPT services and ChatGPT. It's sort of a synonym for the ChatGPT to use the word OpenAI. I mean, people use it so much that you're probably not wrong using it, but technically...
I even sometimes use the example that it's kind of like we saw Google maybe more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and we then in the years to come basically changed the whole notion of you're not searching the internet, you're Googling, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we're at a point now where almost ChatGPT from OpenAI is now taking that terms of that conversation with the computer is ChatGPT. Exactly. Even though it may not be ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Yeah. But again, to the slide here. So as you also pointed out, OpenAI is basically a company. You could say OpenAI is then the company also Microsoft invested in a couple of in recent times. Huge investment, but they, in that sense, bought access to their services, their models, everything. And that's why Microsoft is now able to say, so we now have Azure OpenAI. So all the things you see from OpenAI is now also available in Microsoft. And why is that important? Why is that interesting? Well, first of all, it's because they can then start to build their own services, end-user facing services, and we'll show that in a minute. But it's also important for businesses out there, for us as a partner, that we are now able to buy access to the compute power and the AI services. We're able to speak to where did this run? Where is my data stored? Is it worked on my data? Because it's within the boundary and the well-known setup of Azure, simply. And you'll later today give some examples of these your own ChatGPT. So I'll just leave that there.
And I feel like the Microsoft take, the co-pilots that have been introduced, I think they are like the biggest technological productivity boost that we have been introduced in our lifetime, I guess. Could be the right or wrong thing to say, but it's really one of the biggest technological boosters we have had.
Basically, we're standing on the shoulder of Satya Nadella announcing that, hey, first came the internet, then came the iPhone, and now we have AI. So yeah, I think it's a fair comparison to make. Just briefly, because we're now naming a lot of things, we're not showing ChatGPT. We're kind of expecting that you may have even tried it out there. But I think one of the confusions and frustrations with ChatGPT sometimes is that you ask it a question and then it generates something, and as we tend to say, it's 100% confident but 70% correct, because it's just generating thing. But one thing you could do is instead using Microsoft's offering now called the Bing Chat for Enterprise. And basically what that means is that if you have any Microsoft license for Office 365, you will also in the Microsoft Edge have this new icon in the top right corner. Some of my colleagues have showcased this before, but it's just merely to show this, that now I did a fun thing here saying, make me amazed here. And then it just went to the internet and then it started to amaze me. And I was just about to stop it because it just rambled on with all kinds of things that are nonsense. But the most important point actually being here at the bottom, that it is now not just generating content, but it also shows me where did this come from. Another version of this, and that's when we turn maybe even more to being productive in the context of your own content, is then that I have another window open here where I now showcase the Microsoft 365 chat. So it's somewhat the same as Bing Chat, but the very important change or change of functionality here is in the backend. It now looks at my own data. So in this example I have here, I have a meeting coming up with my colleague in the Netherlands, Rick. So I asked that question, and it basically comes down to by the way, is the next broadcast 16th. I'm doing that live from Seattle with Rick, but I also state some other information here, and even again I can click directly to that and be taken to it. I think that's a productivity gain.
That's exactly one of those. So if we think about what we have done is basically we have the first ChatGPT, and you use it to ask your basic questions, and it doesn't have access to live internet. Okay, the next step we use Bing Enterprise Chat, which is connected to internet. You could ask it questions about any live event that has happened right now and is found from the internet. And it's also secure because it is for your enterprise. And then we have the M365 chat. Now, it has the tools to connect to your specific data, as we could see, whether that be a topic about what meeting do I have, or what kind of conversation I had in the emails, or could you find me a document from my SharePoint structure or something similar to that, helping you get on with your day and helping you create and find your content.
And maybe it's obvious, but the funny thing is you don't even know what you're looking for, right? Because in your chat you're just searching for something, and it could be a document, it could be a conversation, it could be an email. It will know everything, and it will understand your question and direct you in the right context. We all know the frustration of going back and forth between all our different office tools to find. We know it's there.
Yeah.
But where? But where? Yeah. Final short example here is also in Teams. Then we had a meeting internally here in Fellowmine where we discussed, okay, well, what is our experience with the Microsoft Copilot up until today. I asked it to listen in on the meeting, so doing a transcript of the meeting, and then I ask, okay, what were the main topics? It actually able to, these were the main topics. I can actually agree to that. It's even able to, again, link back to who said that and where it's located. And then also said, please also summarize all the topics, and for each topic, name a responsible person. Then it came out with all these different topics. It even named who said that and in what context. Again, it's able to link back to the transcript and show it. But it also shows me some topics with the no owner. I was a bit puzzled with this first one, but it was actually a statement from one of my colleagues, more as a shout out. But yeah, a bit funny. Okay, so going back very briefly here to, I'm confusing myself here a bit. I just wanted to show you the co-pilots. It is maybe again a bit obvious, but talking to this, how the co-pilots work, and as a generative AI, it can sit and fit into the tool that you are using. Now I showed Bing Chat Enterprise and the co-pilot in Edge. I see it in Teams, but of course it's also Word, it's PowerPoint, Word here in Excel, and so forth. So in summary, and as a takeaway here, also from this first session is, let's get started, because it is there now. It's not something that is coming. I think this slide is actually summarizing it quite nicely. Even just with a computer almost and a Microsoft personal account, you're able to get to Bing Chat. Then just understand that it's more in the category of other free services that they may use your data. Whereas if you then move to the Bing Chat Enterprise, your license, then you have this commercial data protection enabled. It's your data. It stays within the boundaries of your setup. And then come the Microsoft 365 Copilot. We'll have a lot of other sessions and talks about what that is in more detail. Even today, just for our Danish audience, there is something at 3 o'clock. Otherwise, next week. And then also from our internal conversation, one thing to be cautious about when doing these talks is Microsoft decided to go with Copilot for a lot of things. so they are sure. Branding and naming a lot of features here. To just be aware when having this conversation also in your own organization, what Copilot are we actually talking about? And then as a technical person, and also this is also part of the excitement, right? That the toolbox is actually there. One thing is the things that you can license and buy as software as a service from Microsoft, but it's also possible to really deep dive in. And I think that's one of the things you've been doing a lot in Finland.
Yeah, we've been doing a bunch, and we are super excited that we just have the tools right now to push these things. And what it means is that actually companies are able to do quite complex scenarios with AI, generative AI, right away, right now. And that's the biggest news relating that we have the tools here.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, I guess generally, like 6 months ago or 9 months ago, or whatever it was when we first heard Microsoft announce these tools and really arm us with the Azure capabilities, where we can do our own co-pilots that are safe and secure, where we have these co-pilots. We started already at FellowMind to, branch out to see like what can we do with these tools? What is the state of AI today? And going to that, AI is quite what we found out is that AI is like quite near us in our everyday work. Basically, all of these tools that we are now getting, they are quite like plug and play almost, where you can just have your end users just add these tools to their everyday work life, as in have them in Teams, have them in your office tools and so forth. And they are mainly about pushing productivity. Like whenever right now, if you are at you think of a scenario where you are wanting to find information from somewhere, what do? You basically start to search it and ask around from people and
water cooler station maybe.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's by chance, right? That you pick up on something.
Yes, exactly. And what these tools do, they basically allow us to be so much more productive by finding the information for us, helping us gather information, and giving us understanding into whatever we are doing.
Yeah.
And this is basically something that there has already been studies relating to this technology. There was a study made by Harvard, MIT, Boston Consulting Group that really drilled down on the work of knowledge workers. And they found out that using this technology, the knowledge worker were able to gain a 20 to 30% productivity boost in their everyday work. And I can totally believe it if we relate this number to the tools that we have now seen. So we can get help starting off a presentation about, let's say, our deliveries for the past 6 months. We could have a presentation made by AI from that. It might not be 100% correct right off the bat, but it's maybe 60% or 80% ready, and then you just move around a bit. Again, you're productive. Or you find the document you're looking for, you remember what you had in your last meeting, what kind of tasks you had there. Yeah. All of these things, they all point towards having better productivity. And as you can see in the image, it's really, really about just chatting in one user interface, reaching out to your other tools from the same view, and moving forward in your daily process.
What I also find a bit mind-boggling sometimes is that now you see this as a demo video, and Microsoft has of course set up things to make that available. But that's a creativity we should be now showing, both as integrators, but also you as in companies out there that think about where are your content today and all the context switches you're making today, maybe to gather that information, and then think about how can we bring this together. In the old days, so to speak, we indexed and we did searches, but it really didn't work that well. But with the generative AI available, again, we can ask the question, it understands the context, it understands all the sources, and then it can really start to bring content together.
Exactly, and the biggest part is whenever we see these, they like feel so futuristic, but in reality, they are already here. Yeah. So this is something that you can already work in. And one thing that we quite often hear about are some typical concerns around AI, like if I use these tools, will the data be used to, you know, be trained the next models, and will other people have access to my data? And these are something that we quite often hear, and my answer is always that once we use the co-pilots or we use the Microsoft tools available, they are all already built with the security that they won't send the data somewhere. It's your private ChatGPT that you can use for yourself.
So even security is also compliance-wise, that you can say that the practice you have around the Microsoft Cloud today also applies to your uses of the AIs and AI tools in the Microsoft Cloud.
Yeah, it honors the rules that what you can reach manually is what the robot or the AI can also reach. So you couldn't, I couldn't ask for my boss's salary from that and have it answered.
Something else is wrong then.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Then we have a bunch of humane concerns. Can I trust its answers? Will these tools take my job? Well, we'll see.
Okay.
But to first answer, and can I trust its answers? This is something that the ready-made tools typically, it's somewhat somewhere in the middle. You can trust it, but then you have to be cautious at sometimes as well. But when we create our own custom models, which I'm getting to in a second, we can also measure or change the amount of hallucinations it can do to a degree. We can say that you have to be 99% sure, or otherwise you say that I don't know the answer to this one.
Okay, in that sense, yeah. So it's not being too creative and just answering something.
Yeah, and also, will these tools take my job? This is something that we hear really a lot. And I think it does have an effect that when we are more productive, we don't have to spend time on these typical scenarios. But what we see is that then instead we'll be able to have and spend more time on things that actually matter rather than searching for the information.
Makes sense.
And ethical concerns, finally, like is there a potential for misuse? Microsoft is really pushing a lot, and they have also released statements that they are pushing that the base model behind everything, you don't have to do anything, but the base model is built so that it won't have like racist comments or sexual comments and so forth. So this is something that really like drives in that this is usable. But one thing that I really have to point out, that we have these co-pilots and they are mainly for productivity gains, but we also have the opportunity to build our own custom models. And how I differentiate these two is that we have on one side we have these productivity tools, the Microsoft Copilot, that everybody can access. And then the other side, we have these custom tools that we can basically build these AI features on top of your core processes, your core services or products, and really differentiate yourself in the market. These are tools that are custom made for you and custom made to really bring you the competitive advantage. And this is based on your own data, once again, safely and securely. And it could be, if we think, for example, here, we have another episode where we go over all of these use case scenarios. But for this specific, if you think about a customer service agent, we could have a self-service portal based on your own data that you can just ask questions about your own service, about some details about your contract or so, and not have a service agent there. And this is not your typical chat user interface. No. This is something that can act as a
it
human.
still resembles something that people would kind of recognize as what they've, for instance, experienced with ChatGPT or being a chat enterprise, that is able to understand the question, you have a conversation about it, and the answers then falls within the topic that you're in here. For instance, something about some machinery or whatnot.
Exactly. And now that we are approaching our time, also we've done a bunch of work with many companies, and we've built a maturity model around where companies are right now in this AI space. And mostly we see companies, they are at the middle segment where they've heard about ChatGPT, they've maybe using it a little bit, and only a few of these companies have already moved towards piloting these ChatGPT use cases and co-pilots and custom OpenAI segments in their own company with their own data.
And basically also this also relays the message of it's time to get started, because the tools are there. We have a practice already established around a lot of these things, and we see a lot of our customers now really moving ahead. And back to the will it take my job? Well, the edge here is maybe that you should be concerned about the colleague that figures this out and is much more productive about that. You can even raise that to on a company level. You should be concerned about the competitor adopting this and being more productive, being able to deliver faster than you can.
Exactly, and I think like one key point is exactly how to get started. One of the easiest things to get started is, if you're worried about your own data and the use cases, one of the easiest ways to get started is use your own documents that you have gathered for 5, 10, or 15 years already. We can just push those to the AI, and you already have a ready-made AI bot that can answer your HR questions, your product questions, your contract questions, whatever you have documents on. We can push these to the bot, and it's as easy.
And we will share these links afterwards, but that is basically a call out for action also here, that we've been doing this for some time now. We have some good practices, some good packages, so to speak, to get you started, because it's also important to maybe step down from the very generic explanations and get into your business and your business process and see where we can apply some AI. And I think that is maybe the closing remark. Yeah. Also, thank you for listening in on today's session. Please reach out to us and to FellowMind in general. Again, what we showed just before is on our website, and there are some contact forms in there. And then hopefully also with today's kickoff of this series, I hope that we will see some of you again coming up next week and the weeks after. But yeah, that's
all from us, and I will deep dive much more on these topics we covered today on the later sessions.
That's right, yeah, much more. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks from us.